As I've tried to explain and show you, this is one of the most incredible times to be alive. Literally, we have technologies that will change humanity. AI is a technology that will eventually replace us as the apex of intelligence on this planet. These are stupidly big concepts, but they're happening at exponential speed. And how it changes the economy and how we have to think through the rise of the robots. We're replacing knowledge workers and manual labor at the same time, and it's only just started. And you see, I love to have these conversations with people who really think about these things at depth. And one of our favorites is Geordie Visser. So Geordie and I share the macro background, both hedge fund guys. We both stumbled into this whole new world and have become obsessed by it in understanding what it means for all of us and how to create the opportunity sets. So let's sit down with Geordie and learn something new as ever.
Raoul breaks down crypto market maturity and rising institutional flows. Discover what's shaping finance's future. Let's dive in together.
The way I read it was this. It was a very interesting thing that the administration basically said, we'll give you $20 billion. They're trying to impact the election. They're trying to get the voters to go, that you have the U.S. help. Now, if it didn't work out, everyone who is a local is going to take their money and put it into dollar stable coins. So the money's coming back in the U.S. Either way, the U.S. wins in this. So by using the swap, and I believe 100% that this is the mindset now, it's one of the reasons why I think the big sellers in Bitcoin are absolutely out of China. I think it's Bitcoin miners. I think it's family offices that are in mining. I think it's people that have held a lot of this stuff because I think China's cracking down on this whole situation. It's been part of it. And even though the crackdown's been happening, I don't think enough people are realizing the flow dynamic that's going to happen with stablecoins. Stablecoins allow for what I didn't see when I lived in Brazil, which is there was a black market, but it was very difficult to get your money outside the country. With stablecoins, any individual that's worried about the depreciation of the peso can take it out in a second. So we learned that with Silicon Valley Bank. I don't know why people didn't think about what could happen in Argentina. Very similar to Silicon Valley Bank, because a bank in the U.S. which took in all of this money, it was all evaporated in a matter of 48 hours. And the reason was because of the version of stablecoins, meaning it was digital money that was able to be taken out very quickly. The same thing will happen at some point with an emerging market country where someone loses, and you're going to have a run on the country, and it's going to happen at some point. And you've seen the ECB and China both publicly talk about the fact that they're worried about the dollar stablecoin situation. They don't know how to handle it. China wants their own CBDC. They want their own digital yuan. But the problem is, I think for these countries, it's going to be an issue. So that's the reason why I think Argentina was an interesting test case. He won. It didn't go out. But you give money to get the votes, and if it doesn't happen, the money's going to come right back into America.
Bitcoin has slipped under heavy pressure as massive outflows from major spot ETFs, led by BlackRock and Fidelity, shook investor confidence. Over $1.21 billion exited Bitcoin ETFs this week, marking a second straight week of losses. This comes as a 38-day U.S. government shutdown and rising fears of stagflation weighed heavily on markets, sending investors fleeing from risk assets. Bitcoin, once above $125,000, has now fallen below $100,000, breaking a key psychological level and testing traders' nerves. The shutdown, job cuts, and uncertain Federal Reserve policy have all added to the volatility. Still, some analysts believe that once the government reopens and inflation begins to cool, Bitcoin could rebound strongly, especially if ETF inflows return and the Fed adopts a softer tone. Fundstrat's Tom Lee noted that the recent deleveraging in the crypto market was historic, but suggested that the worst may soon pass. Despite the gloomy outlook, Bitcoin's long-term holders remain optimistic. If macro conditions improve and confidence returns to ETFs, Bitcoin could find its footing again, potentially setting up another run toward the $125,000 zone.
I've written two pieces this week specifically on the fact that it's here, it's now, and as we leave 2025, the number one most important thing for people is this year was a transition year where inference started to accelerate in terms of token usage, which leads us into the next stage of artificial intelligence, which I've called stage 2, where stage 1 was where these machines and these bots went through undergrad and they've graduated. They have 160 IQ now. And that number is only going to continue to compound every month and as every release comes out. But that just means we're closer and closer to knowledge workers being disrupted. And knowledge workers make up a huge percentage of obviously the United States labor. And that's going to start in much bigger fold this year. And the problem is you've already seen Walmart. Now you've seen Amazon make the headlines. You've seen Accenture, 3 of the 4 biggest private employers in the country have all said we're not going to be hiring. We'll hire eventually, but they've openly said that they're not hiring. And I'll just bring this up because I highlighted this chart last week, which is if you have a long-term chart of earnings per share and you overlay it with 2 separate labor indicators, one just temp employees hired. Temps have been going down consistently now, really since 2022, exactly right around the point that ChatGPT got launched. And then secondly is just the JOLTS number, which obviously went up dramatically during COVID, but has come back down. But those 2 things were very, very much correlated almost exactly to earnings per share in the S&P. So we've entered that very dangerous point where, especially from the big companies like Amazon who are spending lots of money, they need to be reducing employees to stay competitive. And I think one of the mistakes people have made is that they actually believe, number one, AI is not going to do that. That's a mistake. Well, you and I both know that. Number 2, they kind of view it as, well, the companies are not going to fire the people. And the reality is, in a capitalist world where your shareholders determine and your board determines what you're doing, you are absolutely going to see profit margins be the way that people are going to focus on. And I think we're at that inflection point right now where this labor situation, which has reached levels unprecedented, where you can have nominal GDP growing at 5% and no creation of jobs outside of healthcare, we're already seeing it. And I just don't think enough people that I'm speaking with recognize how quickly this has come on and how we're at the very beginning stages of something that goes exponential in terms of the labor side. And how do you catch up to exponential? So this is never going to get better on the labor side. It's only going to either stay the same or worsen. And I think that has huge implications. And that's what I've been writing about lately.
Peter Schiff, one of Bitcoin's loudest critics, is once again sounding the alarm. The gold advocate has urged investors to sell their Bitcoin immediately, calling the $100,000 level an incredible opportunity to cash out before what he believes is an inevitable collapse. If you own Bitcoin, hurry and sell it now while the price is still above $100K, Schiff warned in a recent social media post, doubling down on his long-standing view that Bitcoin is severely overvalued and unsustainable. Schiff's skepticism isn't new, but this time he's joined by Bloomberg senior commodity strategist Mike McLone, who agrees that Bitcoin's stay above 6 figures may be short-lived. McLone noted that despite strong stock market gains in 2025, the broader crypto market has actually declined, signaling weakness beneath the surface. Meanwhile, famed short seller Jim Chanos has closed his long Bitcoin short MicroStrategy trade after months of turbulence, suggesting the market may be reaching a turning point. Some Bitcoin supporters like Pierre Rochard see these moves as signs of a potential reversal. Still, Schiff insists the crypto melt has only just begun, leaving investors split between fear and conviction. If you have been watching so far, thank you so much for watching, and do not forget to subscribe to Bitcoinzilla for daily news all for free. That's all for today's video. Until next time.